1, 2, 3.
Will rise, will sweep! Will rise, will sweep! Will rise, will sweep! Will rise, will sweep!
Thank you, everyone. First place for the alumni race, Rice University Beer Bag 2006 is Will Rice!
Will Rice, will sweep, Miss Power Value.
Will Rice will sweep. That's the only thing there is to say.
The beer bike race, and for years, it must have been, you know, it's certainly about 5 years ago, we won it.
A week, beer bike, and the rest. We know Will Rice is the best. Do we have to say it twice? Heck no, forget you. Go Will Rice!
You have so many great memories here, and it's never quite the same because, you know, while the buildings are the same and the campus changes a little bit here and there, in general, it's just not the same without the people there.
Remember to let her into your heart. Then you can start to make it better. So let it out and let it in. Hey, you're waiting for someone to perform with. And don't you know that it's just you? They do, you'll do. The movement is on your door. Na 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 na.
People who graduate from Will Rice. It's Rice College, yes, but it's also Will Rice.
There's a commitment here. I mean, the culture is that there's a commitment to the community of Will Rice.
And the connection stays. The loyalty that people have, graduates have to this college is just amazing.
And the fact that there is a community, and it's not just 225 people happening to have their beds in close proximity to one another and struggling to get through that, but there's more to it. The group itself has an identity. That idea, that value of the community, I think really distinguishes Will Rice.
Well, we'll see what we can do anyway. This is fantastic.
Looking back now to 1963 when I was living in room 362 and a new faculty member named Dr Cuthbertson came to Rice, and he was to become the second resident associate, and he lived in room 462 right above me. And Doc C, or Gil, or however we call him, is still a very treasured member of the Will Rice community after all these years.
You can almost certainly bet anyone you've met who went to Will Rice not only knows of Doc C, but has about 20 Doc C stories to tell. And so that is always a blast because hopefully you have your own Doc C stories to tell, and it is about 30 minutes of conversation right there.
Surnames beginning with C, Dr. Carrington, Dr. Cuthbertson, and Dr. Castaneda, but the only true Doc C is Cuthbertson, and I think we all would agree to that.
Basically, if you went to Will Rice in the last 42 years and you have accomplished something of note, Doc C knows you and your story and can tell everyone the most embarrassing things about you.
Hey Nathan, good to see you, old buddy. How you doing?
Good to see you too. I'm doing well.
Now tell me about that trip to the Rio Grande.
Are you talking about when you wouldn't let me cross the border by swimming across the river?
Oh, you didn't do that, did you? Doc would have had a fit.
You did have a fit, Doc. You did have a fit.
Well, actually, I manufactured a mythological park ranger who was coming to get them in order to get them out. But they didn't believe in the myth. What am I supposed to do when myths fail?
Well, I used to kid him about the fact that every time Will Rice men seemed to fail out at Rice, I always accused him of having invited those three to play bridge with him after dinner, because he was a life master at bridge and he could afford the time. But I think that the long, long hours of playing bridge after dinner probably took their toll on some of the students.
The popular activity in Will Rice at that time was bridge. And Doc is an excellent bridge player with great instincts and good technique. And those of us who learned to play or barely knew to play, how to play when we got here, joined up with Doc. And the reason, when we would eat meals in here, we would eat as fast as we could, because the first four that got through started the bridge game. And there were lots of nights where we played bridge into the wee hours when we should have been studying.
Well, Nathan, tell me what you've learned about the Will Rice myth.
Well, I've actually learned that almost everything that's a myth, Doc, is true.
Well, what is myth, Nathan?
What is myth, Doc? I think myth is either once truth that has gone away to myth, or truth that hasn't become yet. Truth that hasn't become truth.
Okay, thanks a million. You're part of the legacy. There isn't really any difference between beer bike and myth power value. They're essentially part and parcel of the greater Will Rice myth.
Yeah, I would say the race preparation kind of starts when people are freshmen and they're at O Week and they hear of this thing called beer bike, and it's written up, it's talked about as, oh, in the spring, you get ready for beer bike, get ready for beer bike. So you have this in the back of your mind, this history or this story of this thing called beer bike.
See, beer bike is the one thing that Will Rice does better than any other college at the university. And that makes us different, and that's important in the college system, not only to have distinction academically, but competitively.
We have more titles than any other college. We have more men's titles, more alumni titles, and I think we have the second most women's titles.
And as the time gets closer and as you get into the springtime, you start getting on these emails, let's come out and start training, let's come out and start chugging. You'll see the bikers out on the tracks training and building up for that. When it comes down to the race, about a week out, all the college will gather together and they'll start building and creating all the water balloons for the parade, which thousands and thousands and thousands of water balloons are stored and massed in the basements and hidden because each other college is trying to jack the other guy and break their balloons. It's really exciting just to see everyone from the university come together, all the students, everyone cheering for you or against you. It's a good moment of togetherness.
And what a history Will Rice has had.
And Will Rice was the nephew of founder William Marsh Rice. His name also was William M. Rice II, and he became very early a member of the Rice board. So when they wanted to name these, what had been dormitories, after people, they chose individuals who'd been very important in the history of Rice. Obviously, Baker College after James Baker, Rice College after Harry Wiess, Hanszen after Harry Hanszen, and Will Rice after William M. Rice II, all of whom have served on the Rice board. Finally, his idea of a college system was put into place with the first colleges opening in 1957.
The nice thing about the college system is you could always go down to Commons and find people who would be willing to play a game. We played a lot of games, bridge, we played these Tactics 2, a military strategy game. We played serious frisbee golf.
We did have a very memorable individual, however. Mr. Bernard Wills, also known as Hooks, took care of everything in the college, all of the mail, all of the repairs, and in fact the whole telephone system.
He was a real character, and he was great. He'd get his water gun and they'd fight with the boys.
And he had a little office here in the kind of the lobby of the old dorm. And he was funny and profane and outrageous and kidded people and bought people stamps and things like that. But there was not, the idea of a college coordinator didn't really exist. And it's not until a woman that we all know as Babs Willis came.
Before there were word processors, you had to get someone to type your papers if you couldn't type, and I couldn't, so Babs typed mine. And we had an understanding, that was a way for her to make a little extra money, and we had an understanding that it was wide margins and large fonts, because if the paper had to be 10 pages and you only wrote 8 pages worth, she could make it look like 10.
Babs contributed more to the college than any other single individual.
Babs, I think, was and still is keeping track of everyone at the college, and she did a great job of making sure that everybody had a great college experience.
Babs was really concerned or really focused on getting everyone involved. She would really reach out to all the associates. She'd reach out to the students. She just always felt really loved by her and like she really cared about you.
You cannot imagine a single individual who was more strongly motivated or more dedicated to the idea of Will Rice than Babs Willis. And we all want to thank Babs for everything that she did for us.
Go, Clint, go! Yeah, Clint!
I think a lot of it is just being really organized and, using the whole college.
Chuggers can do what they do independently. The bikers can, bike as many times as they want, but if the throwers aren't precise and fast, and if the flaggers aren't right on time.
It's not just about a great bike team or a great beer team. It's, you have to have a good pit crew. You have to have everybody organized and working for the same goal. And I think over the years, we've kind of built that tradition of, we take it seriously, we're pretty organized, and it usually pays off.
He didn't even need to do that. If he wanted a good competition, why didn't he just let us do it?
When I think of the race, I think we was robbed.
So we had 42 seconds more than we should have. We lost by 27 seconds. So we should have won.
Well, I think we had too many unfair penalties.
And what I could see was this and a bike going across the line.
Myth Power Value went a little thin there somewhere along the line.
You changed it.
We're ready for them next year.
Already ready.
That's right. We'll be practicing next week.
Oh, this is new. I think. No. I could have told it's locked. Okay, the top one's locked.
The 5th floor has a very narrow little staircase to get up there, as I'm sure everybody, even though nobody's supposed to use it.
This is the President's Suite. This is the old President's Suite. At some point someone decided that it wasn't okay to be up here because it wasn't safe. And there's a common myth that housing and dining doesn't want anyone to be up here. False. They do want you to be up here, and they installed an air conditioner to make it more comfortable for people to be here. Well, one year we started a tradition of 5th floor Fridays, where we just come up here and lay outside, talk.
Will Rice, as it turns out, is haunted. It was the first night that I was over in the fish tank there in the President's Suite. And all of a sudden in the middle of the night we hear this, and so I come running out, and the poster's on the ground. And we're like, well, you know, how the heck did that happen? And so the next night, we put it back up there, and this time there was no glass in the frame, and the exact same thing happened. We're like, oh, you know, haha, it must be a ghost. One night, Doc comes up to us, he's like, hey, have you guys heard about the ghost in the fish tank? And we said, no, there's a ghost in the fish tank. And he told us a long story about how way back when these guys kept hearing weird noises coming out of the chimney in there. And so they would put out like talcum powder at the base of the chimney, and they would look for footprints in it the next morning and all that stuff. And then it ended up being a bunch of beer cans that guys had shoved up in there over the years. And that was the great ghost that was making oohing and ahhing noises.
No problem.
Doc takes students on trips, which I think is just an awesome thing to take students and introduce them to things they might not see. I just want to tell a story about how one time Doc did not stress or worry when everyone else was worried. And that was when we went to Costa Rica, and we were flying out of Costa Rica. We had just taken off from San Jose, and the plane was going through the clouds, ascending, and all of a sudden the plane went into a nosedive, and everyone in the cabin was screaming, yelling. I remember I was gripping the armrest very tightly, and finally the plane pulled back up and leveled off, and no one knew what happened. What had happened is another plane was coming in while we had coming to take off, so they had to go to a nosedive to avoid collision. Well, our plane was in a sharp decline and everyone was screaming. Doc, unbeknownst to everyone, claps his hands and goes, "Whee! This is awesome, just like a roller coaster. Let's do it again." And I turned to him and I yelled at Doc and I said, "Doc, this is not funny. We almost died." So for that one time, Doc had no stress and no worries when everyone else was worried. And that's the only time I can think of Doc as not worrying.
No comment.
Well, I think it's interesting to look at the changes that have happened. Okay, and the change obviously is co-ed. That's the biggest.
The transition to co-ed happened actually after my sophomore year, so I was here for 2 years of men's college, and then the big change in 1970, I guess it was 77, 78. And, you know, the people at Will Rice were gracious about it. They welcomed the women coming in. They were very shy, though. We had been living in this little boys' camp for so long with Babs as our den mother, and now real women were going to be at Will Rice College. And so there was a lot of shyness at first.
We had a wonderful, wonderful class of girls that first time, and they were so friendly. We had a lot of shy guys at the time. They wouldn't let anybody be shy. They would talk to everybody. They were so friendly, and even the, you know, most introverted boy would be brought out of his shell because these girls were so good.
In the old days, we had no women, no air conditioning, and no liquor.
Students find it hard to believe that you would come in here in September and live in these little rooms with not much ventilation. Really, when students talked about it, the temperature here seemed jungle-like, and you could actually hear lions roaring and elephants screaming, you know. There was a jungle-like feeling about the place, and maybe even to the extent that there were no women and the men were relatively wild and uncontrolled. In a variety of ways, Will Rice took on jungle-like tones. People who lived around the corner always got to feel that they were more separate from the rest of the college.
You got the suburbs, or whatever you want to call it, but I mean it's the APC, and it's a part of Will Rice, but certain years the people out there end up getting really tight-knit.
It was almost a pun to call themselves Albert Patrick. Albert Patrick was the lawyer, you know, of course, who conspired to write a fake will and take William Morris Rice's money and murder him. So that was considered a sort of a verbal rebellion to call yourself Albert Patrick College.
So my freshman year, I lived in the 90s, and as most of you all know, every year, the 80s and the 90s, the farthest parts of Will Rice College secede, and they form Albert Patrick College, a new and stronger college. At least we say so anyway.
You know, they started this sort of tradition of having their own college night once a year. And I just thought it was kind of a neat idea, because I mean, it kind of gave an example of how Rice and Will Rice in particular, if people really want to do something, they can get it together and they can do it. And you know, they had a college night that was supposed to be for the APC, but really the whole college could participate in it. I always thought that the themes that they had tend to be a little bit, you know, pretty creative themes.
We had this fantastic little coat of arms that we carried around with us, and we made a speech at Diet. It was fantastic. It was like this this Southern theme sort of secession where I did my accent and talked about Southern hospitality and all that, you know. And it was really a lot of fun. It was great. A lot of people got to know us. End of the secession, we threw a study break, had a lot of root beer and ice cream and stuff.
I was lucky enough to have Cece for 4 years, and I still interact with her a great deal. And in a lot of ways, Cece is Will Rice. And she is somebody who, you've had a bad day, you need a hug, maybe you need a little candy, she's there for you.
Just, we have tremendously good people at Will Rice. Cece, our college coordinator, does a great job. I mean, she does everything from emails to just being here, listening to people, talking to people. It's just fabulous to have people like Cece at our college.
When I was president, the one thing I consistently did every day was go see Cece, because she knew what was up and she would tell me things that were going on and how to get them done, and that is how the college was run, is just going to Cece and talking with her about things that pertain to Will Rice.
She routinely has dinner with students, will have people over for Thanksgiving if people aren't going home, and always is there. If you need someone to talk to, if you need someone to pet, she's got her dog, Sammy, there for you. And she more or less just looks after all the Will Ricers.
She is the college. That's the best way to put it. She runs the college, knows the most about the college, is the friendliest person at the college. She has a lot of superlatives associated with her.
So my fondest memory of Will Rice is always those welcoming faces, even when I barge in.
I think my favorite memory so far is from today. Mike Wolf chugging at lunch. 4 years out, 30 years up, ready, set, stop, 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 4 years out, 30 years up, ready, set, stop, 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 So he was really great to talk.
Oh, you're filming me spilling the water. The post-chug interview. I wanna thank all the little people who, you know, really behind me making this happen. So this is my first time.
It seems that an alligator died over at the zoo, which was not too far away. And he was a fairly sizable fellow. He was about, I don't know, 5 feet long, or at least 5 feet long. Our students, or we never knew who, but one of them, thought that it was a good idea to get rid of the alligator at the zoo because he wasn't needed anymore, being dead, and that he would bring him to Will Rice College. But we heard a lot of very funny sounds coming from various parts of the college, and they came over and we said, "What's happened?" And they said, "Well, it's a funny thing, but the alligator appeared at the college, and he appeared in bed. I mean, when so-and-so, whatever the one they were picking on was, woke up in the morning, he found himself sleeping with an alligator." And they did it not once, but then they would take him to some other place, the student who was also sleeping presently, and he would wake up with an alligator. And of course, they didn't know whether he was alive or dead either.
And all of a sudden, like C-Dub and maybe Rachel Gelman, some other people pulled up with just this huge, like, elk head. And everyone was like,
eBay or something?
What?
He was found on eBay by some bar in College Station who had him for like 50 years and was like turned into something else. And they put the elk on eBay, and I was the lucky winning bid.
We tried to decorate Edgar for the seasons.
I would recommend that you Febreze Edgar when he starts to smell. Because, I mean, he was in a bar for 50 years. So he has a little bit of a caked kind of beer, cigarette aroma to him. And to be honest, I'm still surprised it hasn't needed to be hanging in the last 3 years.
We had a race of sitting in your undershorts on a block of ice and racing down the hall.
Oh, we call those polar bear races.
And they had blocks of ice about a foot square, and you had to sit on this block of ice with like a bathing trunk, which meant it was cold. And then as the ice melted, you could sort of, with your feet, you could sort of scoot along sitting on this block of ice.
So there was just a lot of moving and inertia and things going, but you froze. Good God, did you freeze your backside?
Welcome to the central headquarters for Will Rice Smith Power Value. Now there are the Rice Owls, which are a survivor from a trip to Puerto Rico, even though the basket is Panamanian. But you can see 3 owls in primitive culture. The grand tour. And if you discover a few students buried under the debris. Now actually I've read a few of these books, to tell you the truth. And when we moved our offices over from Sewell Hall, I carried every one of them over individually. There we go.
What is that, Doc?
Good question, Clint. It's whatever I got at the guild shop this morning. Mexican oil crown. Last week Zapata got in the car with me, so Viva Zapata. Zapata's gonna stay in the car though. Okay, up to the inner sanctum. Here we go, gang. Welcome, Will Rice. Revealing the myth. You got it? Good. Always room for one more, but enter at your own risk. And like Dante says, all you who enter abandon hope. Is no light, exist in darkness. No, not quite. Give you a little more. You ought to recognize that. It's actually a Navajo kachina. A old Spanish book.
What century is this from, Doc?
17th or 18th. That's my Chinese helmet there. You have seen, sawed, and conquered. And sometimes when we're without the camera, I'll give you the quarter tour.
On your mark, get set, go. Let's go.
It's the eye of the tiger, it's the dream of the fight, rising up to the challenge of our rivals. And the last known survivor stalks his prey in the night, and he's watching us all with the eye of the tiger.
Yeah, the first sweep was an 83. That's the that's the big one. And then of course there's 86.
I remember, for example, coming back as an alumni in '86 when Will Rice swept. The first time I'd ever been here to see a sweep. We had a powerful women's team. We had an overwhelming men's team, and we had alumni who showed up, which was really all it took.
Well, I told you, and we did it. We won. We won all 3 of these races. Hard training, good drinking, and here's one of our star racers right here. Now, Nancy, tell them, how was it out there on this track?
It was tough. It was really tough. It was ahead of me. It was tough. We had to do it. We had to push it.
We did it. Hard effort. All that carbohydrate loading that we had.
Now that I'm gone, what I really miss a lot is the meals. Just like, you know, for an hour and a half, 2 hours every day, sitting there with like, you know, all your friends, and it was just such a community in the Will Rice Commons.
So when I decided that I wanted to run for president for Will Rice College, I thought to myself, I need to show some dedication and show that I'm serious about running for president. So I decided to chop off all my hair and bring it in a bag.
Working at Will Rice has given me hope for the future, because there's so many wonderful young people here who are going to be in charge of our world, and in whom I have such confidence.
Will Rice people were really great people and great friends, and to this day, a lot of the Will Rice people whom I meet at reunions and so forth are among really treasured acquaintances.
We all had friends, of course, outside of Will Rice, but the people that were our friends in Will Rice have typically stayed our friends forever.
You know I feel so dirty when they start talking cute. I wanna tell her that